Coming up on today's episode of Airborne Unlimited, FAA releases updated model aircraft guidance. Sentence passed on the final World Trade Center base jumper. Swiss team takes first prize at the Gordon Bennett Balloon Championship. I'm Bree Cross. It is September 4th, 2015, and this is Airborne Unlimited. The FAA has just published updated guidance on model aircraft operations that reflects current law governing hobby or recreational use of unmanned aircraft. Advisory Circular 9157A replaces the previous guidance that was written in 1981, which did not reflect the rules Congress wrote into Section 336 of the FAA Modernization and Reform Act of 2012. Among other things, the guidance stresses model aircraft operators must comply with all temporary flight restrictions. They may also not fly in any type of restricted airspace without prior authorization, and that they should be aware of notices to airmen that address flights near federal facilities, stadiums, and other public and industrial areas. The guidance also makes it clear that model unmanned aircraft operations that endanger the safety of the nation's airspace, particularly careless or reckless operations, and interference with manned aircraft may be subject to FAA enforcement action. A judge in Manhattan has sentenced 28-year-old Marko Markovic to 300 hours of community service for base jumping from One World Trade Center, which was still under construction at the time of the stunt. However, Justice Juan Merchant was clear in what he thought about Markovic, and it wasn't complimentary. Before handing down the sentence, Justice Merchant said to the defendant's attorney, quote, "Of the three defendants, none have shown more contempt for the process than your client," end quote. It is reported that Markovic apologized to the court before the sentence was read when he said, quote, "I'm truly sorry for the way I acted and the way I've been. If I had a chance to do it over again, I never would. I'm sorry," end quote. Despite Markovic's attempt at contrition, Justice Merchant said the apology was convenient and slapped Markovic with 300 hours of community service. That's the most of any of the three who took part in the base jumping in September 2013. After the break, balloon competition is not a hurried affair.
The KSN 770 is an affordable, WAS-enabled integrated MFD with a flexible hybrid user interface from Bendix King. Get your fingers on the 770's perfect blend of touchscreen and hard buttons. Easily control your GPS navigation, Navcom, weather, traffic, and terrain in any condition. For more information, go to bendixking.com.
Redbird is quickly becoming the industry standard for flight training. Since Redbird introduced its revolutionary FMX in 2007, colleges, universities, and flight training operations around the world have integrated Redbird products into their curriculum. It's time to discover what Redbird can do for you. Join the migration.
AML's patent-pending wireless induction charging system eliminates confusion over those charging cables, cuts down cockpit cable clutter, and allows you and your passengers to fly cordless and eliminate the cable nightmare. www.aviationmodificationleaders.com.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
Welcome back. If you would like to be a supporter of Airborne Unlimited, send an email to jim@aero-news.net. The Coupe Aeronautique Gordon Bennett, which is the FAI World Long Distance Gas Balloon Championship, is the oldest and claimed to be the most prestigious event in aviation and the ultimate challenge for the pilots. The goal is simple, which is to fly the furthest non-stop distance from the launch site. The competition was declared open on the evening of August 27th at the beautiful Maison La Villa St. Basil. The next day, flawless weather conditions allowed for an imposing launch into a clear, moonlit sky at the horse racing track in Pau, France. You have to admit, balloon competitions occur in a terribly civilized setting. Having left Pau on the evening of August 28th, the winning Swiss team landed near Jacksno, Poland after 68 hours and 20 minutes aloft and 1,293 miles from the takeoff point at about 8:30 a.m. on September 1st. Balloon long-distance record setting is clearly not a high-speed event. In total, 17 teams of 8 nations took part in this oldest race of aviation. It's Friday, and that means that it's time for ANN CEO and Editor-in-Chief Jim Campbell to check in with his weekly Barnstorming commentary. There was a time in years gone by when the early CAA and later FAA actually had as a part of its mission to promote aviation. However, the bureaucracy has become so unmanageable and politically motivated that it's sad to say the FAA is not our friend. So Jim reminds us of some lessons from the Bob Hoover fight and what he's been specifically asked to do about it. Here's this week's Barnstorming.
Thanks, Brianne. Hi, folks. Well, I'm going to do one more tease this week, and then we're going to get to the meat of the matter next week. But let me start this out with a couple of simple and maybe even ridiculous questions to many of you. Who's Bob Hoover? What does he mean to you? And why is he relevant now? Well, the fact of the matter is, for many of you, the first question's easy. The next two, well, those answers might change, because Bob Hoover, who went through an absolutely obnoxious experience when in June '92 two FAA inspectors decided they needed a scalp. They needed to take down somebody famous. They needed to make somebody's life miserable to make themselves feel important. Well, it spawned an incredible industry response. Let Bob Fly became the slogan from the latter part of '92 through the early part of '95, when aviators and aviation-oriented people from all over the planet realized that one of the best that we'd ever seen, one of the best of us, somebody we were proud to call our own, was getting hosed by the FAA. A few years after that, I wrote a book, 400 pages worth, that described what Bob went through, how miserable they made his life, about what this incredible American patriot and hero had to do to be able to eke out a living and fight off FAA intrusions and, more important than anything else, FAA confusion. Because frankly, it was obvious to those of us on the outside that they were in serious cover-up mode, and it was going to take maybe an act of God to try to get things straight. But the fact of the matter is this: we won the battle, but we've lost the war. Bob was restored to flying status after great cost and great exertion and a phenomenal amount of support from across the industry. But when he started flying again, we dropped the ball. We needed to do something with what happened. We needed to not only win the battle, we needed to win the war. Because if you take a look at what's happened with the FAA and general aviation since then, it's pretty obvious. We didn't learn anything, they didn't learn anything, and we did not press forward with the fact that something wrong happened, and wrong things were going to keep happening until things changed. Well, this is one of the things that bugs Bob a great deal. Last fall we talked about it a little bit, and then at Oshkosh this year we made an agreement that this was a lesson that needed to be not only learned but relearned and propagated all over the planet, so that the FAA of the future could be responsive to and the servant of the industry it was supposed to support. There are new ways, since I wrote the book, to propagate, promote, and explain what happened. There is a new media revolution going on, and we're going to take full advantage of it. The fact of the matter, though, is we feel ourselves to be in a very good position to be able to do so, but Bob himself will tell you he thinks we're the folks to do it, and so, at his request, we're going to take on the greatest challenge we've ever undertaken. But for more, listen to Bob, and I'll get back to you next week.
Jim, I am delighted to have you tell the story simply because you know more about everything that has occurred throughout this time frame, which was a very important part of my life and one of the worst disappointments I've ever had in my life. And also it's very exhilarating in that we won the battle, but it could not have happened without you, your presence and desire to see the wrong corrected. And it would never have been known without your support. I'll be indebted to you forever for what you have done to contribute to having this become common knowledge to our whole industry. It's important that people realize that we need to stand up for our rights. That's what our Constitution is all about.
For the Aero-News Network, Airborne and Aero-TV, and of course, Bob Hoover, I'm Jim Campbell.
After these messages, NBAA introduces the National Safety Forum.
Concorde's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concorde's entire line of batteries at www.concordebattery.com. Concorde, the heart of your aircraft.
Now certified, Aspen Avionics single-band ADS-B ATX100 and ATX100G transceivers are the next-gen ADS-B solution that provides the features pilots need while keeping flyaway costs low. Check it out now at aspenavionics.com.
Sandia introduces the new SAI 340 Quattro TSO'd airspeed, attitude, altitude, and slip. With integral backup battery, safety never looked so good. See it now at www.sandia.aero.
Welcome back. With so much news coming out of the aviation industry, we're summarizing some other interesting stories in a brief segment we call Around the Patch. The NBAA's inaugural Safety Forum will be conducted at their Aviation Convention and Exhibition, set for November 17th through the 19th in Las Vegas. The day-long forum will bring together top government and industry leaders to discuss the principal safety issues. A UAV designed for search and rescue is gearing up for the first 186-mile UAV flight to cross the North Sea, linking Scotland to Norway. This is a joint effort between Horizon Energy Systems of Singapore and Scottish UAV developer Raptor UAS. Bell Helicopter has delivered the first of 2 Bell 429s to the Slovakian police. These aircraft will be primarily used for border protection, search and rescue, natural disaster relief missions, and road traffic law enforcement. Alan Seiterman is required to have a pilot certificate under the conditions of his UAV commercial operation exemption. He found the most economical way to accomplish this was to become a hot air balloon pilot. This makes no sense, but it meets the FAA requirement. The AAR Corporation celebrates 60 years in the aviation industry. What began as a one-man operation is now an industry-leading provider of aviation services to airlines, OEMs, and governments around the world. AAR employs more than 5,000 employees in 20 countries. Well, that's our trip around the patch. Now let's move on to the rest of the news. The International Women's Air and Space Museum, located in Cleveland, Ohio, is planning its annual Wings of Women Conference in Dayton, Ohio on October 10th. The Wings of Women Conference originated in Dayton and continues there annually. The program was developed by the National Aviation Hall of Fame, who then started a Cleveland chapter in 2011. The program is geared towards late middle school and high school young women interested in STEM-related career fields. Participants will have the chance to speak with professional women mentors from these fields and discover how they got to where they are today. They will also experience hands-on activities dealing with STEM fields to further their curiosity. We at ANN are glad to see these sorts of activities that introduce girls and young women to aviation and aerospace endeavors. Well, that's our program for today. Remember to get comprehensive real-time 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at aero-news.net. Remember that Airborne Unlimited is streamed daily Monday through Friday with additional breaking news bulletins for important stories that fall outside of our normal deadlines. Please join us and a growing roster of over 100 outstanding industry associations and organizations every weekday for the best in aviation and aerospace news from the staff of the Aero-News Network, the aviation world's most comprehensive news and information resource. Have a wonderful holiday weekend. We will see you on Tuesday.